Hello and welcome to the GMIHub online. Welcome. We're talking about instrumentation today. And it's great to have some amazing people on our show today as we talk about the art of musicianship. We're going to get into more of that a little bit later, but my name is Dale Borland.
I'm Cheryl Duke. So glad to see you all here. And we are so glad to have Cheryl Dickson Neal and Luke Langman with us. Just a little bit about them. Let's start with Cheryl. Cheryl Dickson Neal is from Hamilton. She was a Canadian Gospel Music Award nominee, songwriter, composer, pianist. She's written songs like My Prayer and Never the Same, correct? Never the Same, which was a song that was written for breast cancer survivors. And she's just known for her authenticity when she is playing and singing at the same time. So we are so happy to have Cheryl join us today. Thank you so much, Cheryl, for being here. And we also have Luke Langman, who is also here from Ontario, from just north of Barrie. He is also a singer-songwriter. He has released such a number of songs that you would have heard on the radio. My favorite is Can't Escape because it's got that pop beat. I love it. But he's also got a few other favorites. One is Every Word You Say. And he's also got a Christmas caroling one, which is dear to my heart since we've just finished releasing a Christmas compilation CD. And he is, well, actually, you've been in the business for quite some time now, since 2008, correct?
You've been following me, haven't you?
Nah, just a little bit. And we're so happy to have you here, Luke.
Yeah. Before we just headlong into this, I want to remind those who are watching at home, thank you so much for watching on our YouTube channel, the GMIHub Online. And if you want to go check some of our library of videos with different interviews there, please feel free to do so. There's a whole plethora of stuff there. It's amazing. And also, don't forget to like the video and share this experience. Let people know. Maybe copy a link onto your social media. Have those people who are into music, maybe you want them to be aware of what we're doing, what we're talking about. So I would appreciate that. And don't forget to like and also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And so anyways, we're going to talk about the art of musicianship. And with us, let's talk about two different types of instruments tonight. We're going to talk about the piano and the guitar.
Well, first of all, I know I've kind of alluded to the styles of music, but how would you both describe the styles of music that you aim to achieve in your artistry? Luke, you can go first.
Sure, yeah. For me, it's kind of a split personality when it comes to the music that I play. Firstly, like practically, I lead worship at our church, and anytime I have a gathering I'm playing at, then I'm definitely working in like some modern worship and some original worship. And then at the same time, the local radio station, 100.3, and my manager, Scott Jackson, they're helping me to record for the radio, so pop songs and that. So I've got the recording side, and then I have kind of like the leading worship and engaging, the whatever venue I'm at, doing a mix of worship and original.
That's awesome. Cheryl, how about you?
Well, I think as a musician, you have to be versatile like that, like Luke, right? You have to kind of go with the flow. So yeah, I have a lot going on as well. For my original music, I don't know what you would compare it to. Maybe Sarah McLachlan. It's very piano based. It's very raw, real, inspirational. My instrumental music is mostly just piano. And then I also perform at a restaurant. I also perform at retirement homes, and I lead worship at my church as well. So yeah, who you play for is going to change the style slightly. You're still who you are, right? But you have to be versatile.
And both of you play solo, but you've also played in bands. Is that correct? I guess you're both nodding, so I have to show that.
So tell us a bit about maybe.
You're both nodding, and all the people we're seeing were me.
Well, why don't we talk a little bit about what your musical background is? Like, you've done bands, you've done some stuff. Let's start off with Luke. See what have you you've done? You don't have to go into band's name perhaps, but what kind of stuff have you been a part of?
When I was 5 years old, I was in the junior choir at church, and I sat third from the back, and it was a wonderful experience. I've joking. We've music's been in my family for sure, and so I was in choirs in church, so that was definitely grounding. I took pulled teeth to do piano lessons because you know how hard piano is, and you know it's not everyone's favorite instrument, right? Piano, right? So no, I'm joking. Anyways, we took piano lessons as well for a while, which again grounded a lot of kind of musical kind of foundation for me. And then it was in high school, joined the garage band, right? And that's where I kind of got a lot of my chops. And then university, started leading more. I joined a Christian club on campus as well, and then just started leading worship there, and just guitar or two guitars, that kind of thing, with another guy. Yeah, and then after that, started leading worship at my own church after university, and then just started kind of tinkering with recording on my own, and therefore writing and recording myself. Put up my first CD. It was all done in my in a room in my house, and the people who had left before I got there left like all their mattresses and like scuzzy stuff, and so I made a little mattress studio. Like I kind of like made like a fort of mattresses, and I stuck myself in there with my computer. And so I recorded my whole first CD like that, and it sounded like it sounded just like a mattress studio. But, you know, my mom loved it, so that was a big review, right? Mom loved it. Like nice 7-minute songs, like 5-minute solos. You know how that is. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so then my friends at church actually lobbied Life 100.3, and they got one of my songs on like praise and worship Sundays, and so that was kind of what triggered it for me. And then my very next album was a greatest hits. I took like my garbage recordings and like took it to a real studio, and they made it sound wonderful. And so from there, from that EP that I did, it's just gone on. I have five CDs now, and I record with Andrew Horrocks, who I know Cheryl is recording with now, and then I record with Carmen Berry in North York, and then more recently I've been going to Nashville and recording with Ian Eskelin, and it's been a great experience. So yeah, it's a long road, and now with COVID and that, things have changed obviously, and so now I have a 15-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old son. I have 2 more younger kids as well, but with those 2, I have my son on the cajon drum kit, mishmash, and then my daughter, we have a keyboard that she plays, and so now we do like kind of 3-piece worship for other churches and our own too. So things are always changing.
Well, that's a great journey, and it's awesome that you get to play with your own kids. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Cheryl, what about you? How about your journey?
Well, I started playing piano when I was 7, and so after my very first lesson, that's when I realized I could play by ear, because I came home and I'm like, hey, I can play Mary Had a Little Lamb. Get back to bed. And then I would do that. I would like pick songs out by ear on the radio, or from records. Yeah, I'm dating myself. Anyway, and then when I was about 12 or actually 13, started playing in a Christian rock band, and we did original songs. And by the time I was 16, we actually played at Greenfest. Remember that at Binghamton Park in
I was there. What band were you in?
We were called Azaz.
Oh, no way!
Yeah.
I remember that name because it's so weird.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And then a few years later, I started playing with Sela. Not the Sela that is out now. They were based out of Niagara Falls, or like Welland area. And so we played a lot of churches around Southern Ontario, youth rallies, that kind of stuff. And then I actually started taking singing lessons in 2002 because it was a crazy dream to want to sing at my wedding. That was my debut. And after that, I went on and recorded my first solo album. Well, years after that, I guess that was 2010. And I've still been writing and still been singing. And yeah, it's a journey.
You
Not a
also
word.
help lead worship, I understand. Is that right?
Yes, I am also a music director at a church. A music director at one church, and then I also play on a worship team at my home church as well, and also do some music directing there as well.
So it's safe to say music is very much part of your life, right?
That is my life, yeah.
Yeah.
I teach piano. I run a studio. This is my studio. I also teach at Mohawk College, program for adults, adult beginners, and what else do I do? Like I said, I play in a restaurant, fine dining restaurant, play for weddings, corporate events.
Nice.
That kind of stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's the composer in you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of want to, I love hearing about the journey. And the reason I like hearing about the journey is because, one, it's very real, right? I love the picture of the pillow, like the pillow studio or the, the mattress studio, the mattress studio. I love that picture because I'm going, that's something I would do, make a fort and just go for it, you know? But you went from kind of working on and playing on your own, and then, and of course, developing your skill on your own. And then came the time when you got to play with other people and other instruments. So let's go into that part of the journey. Was the first, now you both lead worship at churches, which implies to me there's worship bands. So would that be fair to say those are the first bands you've played with, or are there other bands that you've played with?
Well, the first band I played with, like I went to a Christian school, so it was a Christian rock band, not necessarily leading worship, that kind of stuff. But yeah, that first experience of playing with a drummer, oh my goodness. He was like, "What are you doing?" I go, "What do you mean? What are you doing?" We were not together whatsoever, because as a piano player, I mean, I guess I thought I had a good sense of rhythm, but my own sense of rhythm, not used to listening to other musicians. So that was a really big eye-opening experience.
Well, when you're playing striper songs at a Christian school, it's kind of hard, right? Big hair band.
That's right. A lot of noise. Yeah.
But that leads to a good point. Luke, what was your experience when you first played with a band?
Right. Well, I went to just a regular public school, and it was a classic rock band. And so I was lead singer and played acoustic guitar and a bit of electric as well. And so that was they were fairly talented, so it was okay. Like I was coming in like at their level as far as like beginnings, or they were kind of skilled beginners, I'd say. And so I was kind of right in there at the beginner level. And so we were matched when it came to our levels. So there's nobody kind of rising above. So we were all learning together, which was nice. And then I went to a mainline church growing up. So it was just like hymns and organs. There was no kind of worship team. I didn't even know much about Christian music until I got to university and kind of got locked into that Christian group. So I was kind of a newcomer to that scene. But then when I got into leading worship there and at my church, then as well, then that's when I really started to play with a team. And at the same time, it's a different dynamic in church, because you are you want to have excellence, but at the same time you want to include like everybody, the joyful noise thing. So it's always been fun trying to balance excellence and joyful noise, and somehow we're worshiping, right? So it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's fascinating also, Cheryl, you touched on something first time playing with a band, other instruments, other musicians. We'll talk about that a little bit later more. I think we'll unpack that a bit more, because it's something that a young artist needs to be aware of. But let's get back to instruments. You decide which instrument is best for your style. Like, for instance, we talked about on previous shows how an instrument style of its sound would actually change the style of the song. Like ballads probably best played on the piano, not that acoustic guitar as well. But when you get to electric guitar, it changes that style, and so on and so forth when you add sound effects and whatnot. So what instruments are best for the style of music that you're aiming to achieve?
We better have our arm wrestle here, should we, Cheryl?
Go for it. Well, for me, I gravitate to the piano because that's my instrument of choice. But I've also been teaching myself guitar. And so I've also played around with the guitar on some of my songs. And I've noticed when I play the same song on the guitar as the piano, I sing it different. And it does bring out a different character to the song, a different groove, just a different feel overall. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's kind of fun to change it up, to switch it up, because
get a little more Randy Travis in your voice when you have a guitar, Dave.
I don't know. Leanne Rimes, yeah.
Yeah, I find, of course, my leading instrument is acoustic guitar when it comes to most situations, and I find, congratulations to you, Cheryl, and every person who leads on the piano. Like, that's a lot of like brain capacity going down. You're hitting lead lines and you're singing them, and you're able to really kind of shape the dynamics with the piano, because you can make me cry with up at the top of the piano, right, with the kind of tear jerking stuff, and then you can, like, I have a piano player who can like just roll around the bottom end when things are really the dynamics are high. And so I find I want to high five every person who leads on the piano, because it's real skill and a gift for sure. I find when it comes to my acoustic guitar, I like it because when it comes to like the faster songs, straightforward songs, I'm able to, it's not quite as difficult to play the guitar, I don't think, as the piano. So I'm able to share my headspace in what I'm going to say next, in what's going on around me, in listening to the band and trying to bring them along. And also, if we haven't got a click track, then with my acoustic guitar, my arms waving back and forth, and I don't have to look at that person over there and say, hey, you're off. I'm just like, here's my arm, follow it now. So I find acoustic guitar is a great leading instrument in in a church setting for sure.
I've been in both settings where the leadership has been a keyboardist and the other one has been a guitarist. And no offense to guitarists, but I find the more versatile is the piano, because the piano can play the bass. If she's not hearing it or he's not hearing it, she can play that, and maybe also say to the bass guitar, "This is what I want you to play." So there's so many aspects of the guitar that is more versatile in some ways, but the keyboard is probably able to cover the notations that the guitar maybe wouldn't be able to.
So that kind of leads into what happens when these instruments play with one another. So if a piano can kind of cover everything and the guitar can lead, is there ever a fight between the keyboard and the guitarist? And, and how do we develop musicianship in that capacity when there could be potentially two lead instruments?
I believe there definitely has to be unity in the team, and, know what your common purpose is. Like, if you're leading worship, it's not about us. So, but there are times where there's open worship, and let's say the guitar he has a melody and he wants to go with it, then let him. And so piano players, that's your time to just maybe pick a pad and just hold that. When I say a pad, I mean like a string sound. Whoops. Something like, something that is filling in the space, but not overpowering the other instrument, and vice versa. There are times where the piano, like we're in open worship, where I will have a melody and I want to play it. And the team that I play with is fantastic, because we've been playing together with it for a long time, and we're used to listening to each other. So that's really, really important, is listening. Yes. Listening.
I think that's good. That's a great way to put it. And that's probably something you have to learn to do as a first-time musician coming into a band situation, learning how to listen. And that's probably one of the hardest things for some musicians to do.
Well, especially if you're used to playing by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're not used to having that other element there. So yes, it does take some getting used to.
Especially the rhythm section. They need to lock up, so they need to listen to each other. That rhythm guitar, bass, and drums, you really need to have those. Like, when I was playing the drums, the bass amp as close to me as possible, because I need to, play with him. We've got to be tight. So, yeah.
Luke, did you ever have that experience of lead guitar, maybe fighting with the keyboard or vice versa for for I guess leading the band. Have you ever had that experience at all?
Yeah, I have a guitarist and a keyboardist in my band, and of course they're able to take turns. And electric guitar, a lot of times it'll sound like a pad. If they have the right pedals in that, they can really kind of overlap what the keyboard is doing. So if the guitar player wants to do a big spacey pad section, then the keyboard is automatically going to flip to a piano, which will cut through the sound. And so they're working together for sure. And when it comes to acoustic guitar and the piano, as far as leading, I think they're both mid-range instruments as far as the sound goes, but really they complement each other amazingly, because when you're strumming the acoustic guitar as a rhythm and as a lead in a band, if you listen real hard, it just becomes the sound of a shaker almost. Just the strings are just kind of clacking if it's in a band setting, and then the piano is able to kind of cut through that and really make it sound great. So I think they're very complementary when it comes to playing together.
Very true. I just want to take this time to remind everybody who's watching, thank you so much for tuning in. This is GMIHub Online, and today our topic is instrumentation, and we're talking about the art of musicianship. And our panelists today, we have Cheryl Dickson Neal and we have Luke Langman, and they're both incredible artists and involved in their churches and professional, as far as I'm concerned, artists, what they do, recording and writing and all that. And it's really important for us to get some bearing in other people's experiences so we can draw from them. And if you're watching online and you haven't seen us before, thank you for tuning in. If you've liked the video, that'd be great. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can be let know whenever we have a new video up and running. And speaking of videos, we got a whole plethora on GMIHub you can look at anytime you like. And go ahead and do that. And don't forget to share the experience. Let somebody know. Let somebody who maybe is a musician or someone in your life who is an artist. And all of the resources we have on the GMIHub are there for you. And we thank you for taking the time to look through those. Thank you. Let's get back to our questions.
We were talking about listening. Let's camp on that just for a little bit. How important is it for example, for the front person, whichever is the lead instrument, how important is it for the lead instrument to listen to the other band members?
It's very important for sure. Depending on, if you're working in a worship team setting, you've got to be listening, especially during practice, what's happening, who's falling apart. Is the drummer, is he off in his own world, kind of doing a beat way over here? Things can sound pretty dissonant when you're not together, right? You're not playing together. So that comes with time. It comes with practice. So you would hope that the people would practice at home, and then when they get there, they've kind of got their act together, and then they're ready to begin kind of the gelling process. That's nice. If they're still trying to learn their part while you're trying to practice together as a team, it's tough. And that goes for if you have a band that's playing original music, it goes for that too. You've got to put the work in at home, so when you get to the practice or get to the venue, then you are ready to play together as a team. And that takes time, and it takes commitment for sure.
Awesome. What about you, Cheryl? What do you have to say to that one?
Well, I think it's really important for everybody to listen to everybody. And also for the singer to listen to where the band is doing, especially to see where they are. Sometimes that worship leaders can kind of jump in a little bit early, right? So I think it's important for them to hear the rhythm, hear those little cues of when the verse is, when the chorus is. And it's also important for the band to listen to the worship leader, because sometimes she might want to go somewhere else and you just got to go with it.
Very true. Yeah.
I was going to say, so how do you build musicianship?
Well, preparation. So giving the musicians the pieces that ahead of time to listen to, charts. Listening is really important. I can't stress it enough, because let's say you're learning a worship tune. We would be given a specific recording, and many times we want to play it like that. So it's up to each person to listen to their part and to come prepared.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, Cheryl mentioned, I think that she took lessons for singing and as well for piano, and so did I. I think you know, if someone's looking to build musicianship, like no one has ever reached like the pinnacle of their instrument. Like, they have not mastered it, and so there's always something you can learn. These days, you can go on YouTube and like within 3 minutes, I can find like 5 players who are better than me, right? And I can learn from them. So that's really important. Just keep developing yourself personally, and then as far as interacting together. Being the leader of the band, like if we're practicing and something's gone wrong like 3 times with the same guy, we just got to stop, make a joke, address the problem, try it again with him all by himself or her. Okay, you got it. Now try it. Back up a bit and run at it again. Oh, okay, good, cool. And I think humor is key when it comes to like helping to correct people, guide people, and they'll respect you, I think, overall, and it just keeps the mood a little bit lighter. It's not like, you know, hey guys, we're on like in half an hour. It's not going to work. So just keeping it light, I think, helps, and then just keep them coming back and yeah, just being involved.
That is important. And I also think, just jumping in here, as a team, I think it's really important to praise a person when they, like, compliment the person, recognize the skill that they and the time that they put in, because as musicians, we're all sensitive. Let's face it, right? And sometimes we can be our own worst critic. So I think building a person up is really going to build your team up, and it's going to encourage them to be even better.
Yeah. Good points. Listening, encouraging, and humor. That really works. I'm thinking of I'm trying to think of your songs, and I'm trying to think, what's the story of musicianship behind all your songs? So for example, Cheryl, you did the song. I'm thinking of the song "Never the Same." I know I'm probably going way back here, so you know, but when you think of the song "Never the Same," the whole process. I mean, yes, you wrote the song, you played the song. There's a whole band there. You're singing there. So can you kind of speak to the musicianship that occurred, like what happened during that song while you were while it was developing, and even when it was finally hit the final recording?
Well, that's actually a very interesting story. It's interesting you brought that up, because I have never written a song like that before. I usually would write from personal experience, and I was asked to sing at this breast cancer event, and they said, okay, you're going to be at the end of a dock, and this is there's going to be dragon boat races. So 6 teams of dragon boats of breast cancer survivors, and there's going to be about 2,000 people lining the shores. And they said, ideally we want you to sing something that's slow and somber in the beginning, and then ends with feet tap and hands clapping in the end. I'm like, what? Oh, and you have about 3 minutes. I'm thinking, there's no song like that. Maybe I'll write a song. Okay. Well, I actually fasted and prayed for that song. And I did that for 3 days. And then I interviewed about 7 different cancer survivors. One lady wrote me 2.5 pages of her journey. And so I wrote, it took me about a week. When I say a week, I mean a whole week. Like, I was spending a full day's work on it. It was a lot. And then I took it into the studio, working with Andy Horrocks. And the musicians he brought in were fantastic. And they brought it to life. Like, they brought the groove to life. It's interesting how each person's musicianship can take that song to another level.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. I think that, Luke, you probably realize this as well as Cheryl. When you're playing a song and you have it the way you like it, maybe it's not quite arranged the way it's going to be when it's recorded, but you have a song that's done, and then you add these other musicians, and it takes your song in a totally different direction. And sometimes it can be hard as an artist to hold on to your baby so tight that it's hard to let it go whenever a producer or musician comes in and changes the direction? But talk about if there's any opportunity you've had to collaborate with other people. What's that experience been like?
Before we lose that, I want to say Cheryl has to play that song before this event's over tonight. So I want to hear that. So get ready, get your little iPad out there and get ready to go. As far as collaboration, I think you're right, Dale. That's kind of how I was for a long time. Was just like, this is my baby. But then I would always move Mufasa the baby at the end, because the producer would always take it to like the next level for sure. But as far as writing the songs, that only came recently. When I went to Nashville, I wrote with the producer down there, and it was my very first time that I ever done like a blank slate. We popped it on him and we're like, hey, we're here. Can we write a song and record it? He said, sure. So we sat down and like no idea, no topic, no nothing, just like a blank book and a couple pens. And we just started chucking ideas back and forth. I was a little bit intimidated because he's recorded people like Francesca Battistelli and Hawk Nelson and things like that. So I'm just like, I want to follow his lead when it came to the writing process. Anyway, by the next morning we had a chorus and not much else. And so he's like, well, let's record the chorus, because I was flying out that night. Let's record the chorus and we'll keep going after that. So we got the basics of it down, recorded the chorus, and then he said, well, what do you want to say in the first verse? And so he threw an idea, I threw an idea. Anyway, in the end, it did get recorded by about lunchtime the next day. But he's a machine. Like he has so much experience, and like he'll do like a whole album in a weekend, that kind of thing. So I was just along for the ride, but that was my first experience with collaborating. And it was, I learned a ton for sure, and learn to know that God speaks, not only to me, but other people too. And they can speak into my life and into what God wants me to say. So it's cool.
I want to ask you about Can't Escape, because that's one of my favorite songs. Was that one of the songs that you collaborated with, or is that a whole different story behind that one?
That is the exact song I was talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the one. And it was, it took about two different directions. Like by the end of the first day, we were thinking like kind of it's a totally different song than that. And I wasn't settled with it overnight. So I didn't sleep much that night because I was flying out the next day. I wasn't super settled on what we had so far. So I came up with the chorus and brought it to Ian. And he's like, yeah, that's cool. And then basically he wrote the rest of the song basically. And when it comes to like when you're writing a song for us, we grab our guitars, right? And we sit on couches and we play our guitars. And Andy Horrocks always said, if it sounds good with a voice and a guitar, or a voice and a piano, one instrument, if it sounds good in that setting, then you can add all your production you want to raise it up to the next level. But if it sounds bad as a voice and a guitar, then you can add all the production you want, but it's not going to go very far, right? So when it came to that song, though, like Ian basically just took it and his engineer. And it's interesting, the new style of music on the radio, the millennial stuff. And I'm not a millennial. I know you can't believe it, but I'm not. But it's all like, it sounds very studio. It's like very minimalized. Like it's just like it's all about the bass and like some kind of groove beat. And then you've got just one other element, and that is the song. And it's crazy. He just went online. And he like, okay, I want this drum beat over here. I'll put that fill over there. I'm gonna take this keyboard part, just like do 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 do. Okay, copy that. And that was the whole song. I'm like, seriously? So in some ways, simplicity is sometimes better. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're talking about. So I've heard so many different things now. I'm hearing musicianship starts with, I guess, one working on their own talent and always working towards getting better and better and better. The second thing I've heard is listening is very important, especially when in a setting where there's other instruments. So now, and now, like you gave another example of you collaborated with someone and their musicianship was kind of just, I guess they just kind of had stuff in their head and they kind of made it happen. And like you said, less is more. Like they did some simple things and boom, you got a hit song, that I danced to. So So I listen to all of this and I go, okay, so now there's other things with musicianship that we can touch on. And one of the things could be with, I want to say dynamics, but I don't know if dynamic, when I'm thinking two ways of dynamics. One is loud, soft, but there's the other dynamic of when to know when instruments play and when they don't play. Sometimes music is best expressed when there are spaces, right? How, I guess, how do you decide on that? How does that part of musicianship come into being? Strange question, I know. but
Yeah,
do you
well,
understand the question?
I do, yeah. So for me, the dynamic range is there's the song needs to have its own dynamics, and then the set of songs needs to have its own dynamics too. So for the song, I think like even a fast song needs to build and needs to push forward and then needs to kind of hold back. And so even within a fast song, I would say, I'd say, okay, drummer, we're just gonna do some hats and some kick to start. And then when we get to the first chorus, you're in full time. And then we're gonna hold off on the bridge. The bridge goes right down. And then here comes the build and then back in for that final chorus. So even within one song, you've got all kinds of dynamics, and each player works into that. Like I'll strum less, I'll do a muted kind of feel if I'm supposed to be quiet, or I'll start picking in the bridge if it's soft. And then when we're going, like strumming to beat the band, so to say, and the keyboard as well. I'm sure Cheryl knows, the soft parts, you're up high and light. So within the song, each instrument has its job as far as making the song kind of push forward or to hold back. And then as far as the whole set of music, whether it's worship or you're doing a concert, like first 2 or 3 songs, I'll keep it up, the tempo's up for me. And then I like to bring it down and have a song or two that's soft. And you bring it back up again to wake them up. And then you want to bring it back down again to kind of have that moment where you have all your stories. And at the end, depends what you're doing. Like Cheryl said, depends on your audience, depends where you are. Send them out, clapping, whatever. So it's, even within the whole evening, you've got to have dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. And then you touched on something else that I was going to ask.
Yeah.
But Cheryl, and did you have anything to add to that?
No, but I was going to add, well, sort of. Dale was saying just a few minutes ago, less is more. Back to the beginning of my journey, well, sort of. When I first started to play with Sela, this is my first professional band, and they were already established, and they already had, so I was filling in for somebody else I was basically replacing somebody else. So the band leader, he was also a producer, and so he already had everything worked out, what he wanted me to play, where, and to do exactly that, to build the dynamics, or to have big here or nothing here or layout. And so at first I thought, why am I here? Because literally at times I'm playing an organ sound. I'm just playing and then, okay, add a little vibrato, stop. And then on this part, bring it back in. And at the end of the first concert, people were coming out, oh, wow, your keyboard player is amazing. I'm thinking, what? I'm not doing anything. Exactly. Less is more. It was what I played where, which brought it up to that level that he was looking for. And again, that's ties back into listening to that leader, because he was the leader of the band. He had a vision of what he wanted the music to sound like. And so again, I think it's important to follow the leader. Yeah. That was a real eye opener for me.
That's said by a true leader. Follow the leader.
Yes.
We talked a little bit before we went live. We talked about knowing your lane, which means if you're an instrument and you know what you can and where you should and shouldn't, what you can do to help support what another instrument is doing, that helps the song become more than just instrumentation. You're talking levels and layering, and we're not going to get into talk about production, but that's kind of when we're talking about dynamics as far as slow and fast and loud and soft. Also, dynamics can be achieved by pulling instruments out and putting instruments in.
I was going to say, that's what I remember. Thanks, Dale. It's like, I remembered school, like a school orchestra situation. And I had the joys, unlike you talented people, I have a different talent. Mine was playing percussion. And so I had to very much learn when to hit the big drum, or when to tinker on a triangle or something like that. But it's like those little things. I had to watch a whole music sheet and get my little point and go, ding, okay, got it. And keep waiting.
I know, you know? Exactly what you're saying. I play percussion in church, in the school band too. It's like dun 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 dun, and you wait. Dun dun, and you wait.
And you know, being in those positions, it's so easy to think, why am I here? Oh God, I'm the triangle player. Ding, I got my big part. But yet that little part in the right spot could make a big difference in a song. Do you agree?
Absolutely.
Triangle players are hard to find, for sure.
I'm available. But it just goes to showing we're taught musicianship from even school years. And Cheryl, you're an instructor. I mean, I know you instruct adults, but I think you can also, as you're teaching, you're probably teaching this as well. Like, no matter what instrument they're playing, there's a time and a place where what they play, as whether it's a big part or whether it's a tiny part, or like you said, you know, playing synth or playing organ just for, you know, 2 beats. Okay, why am I here? You know, but it's like the triangle. Ding, I did my big part. You know, but what you do makes the difference even when you're not playing. I heard someone say this line, and I can't even take credit for it, but it was a pastor that said it. And he said, sometimes, you know, he said, a scale becomes a song when there are notes that you don't play. And I'm not even quoting it correctly, but the way he said it, it made so much sense. You know, we don't have to play everything. And from a person in my earlier years, I thought playing in a band meant you play all the time, like every note, every beat, everything. But it does become noise, right? So that's why we're having this conversation. I wanted to remind people as well that if you're watching us, we're talking about musicianship right now. We have Cheryl Dickson Neal, we have Luke Langman. Both of them are award-winning nominees for their music, composers, songwriters, singers, played in bands, played solos, very talented, and they're giving us their insight on musicianship, how to basically make music, but making music based on understanding our own talent, understanding the talents of others, working with one another, building that team in a band setting. And there's so much more, and I know we have 50 minutes, so we can just learn so much more, and I won't give anything away. But you can certainly share this experience. You can hit subscribe to get more about this experience. You can check out our website, which is gospelmusicindustryhub.com, to find out more about us. But I won't steal any more time from these precious people because they're just awesome for being here. You both of you mentioned something about the audience, and this kind of goes back to the listening. So we've talked about leaders listening to band members. We've alluded to band members listening to their leaders. But how important is it for the band as a whole to listen to the audience? What the audience is thinking, saying, reacting, not reacting. How important is that?
Go ahead, Luke. You're nodding your head.
Yeah, I'm sure I've bombed more than Cheryl has, so I can tell you all the times that I've been playing. We did a youth event for a high school in Barrie, Christian high school, and of course it was one of my first gigs, and so I'm up there and I got it all planned out, and I'm like,
a little nervous, and I'm just like playing my heart out. And we get into this big slow section. I got a violin player, and we're just like, we are all that and so much more. But I look out and I see all the high school kids. This is before cell phones, but they were still like slowly leaving and like falling asleep. And the principal's like, it's going. So yeah, so I think so now when I see that, I'm like, okay, hey guys, cut that song, move this over here. I'm moving stuff around. I'm gonna start telling some jokes. We're gonna like switch it up a bit, and then get some back and forth a little bit to try and wake them up. But that's what's not very often, of course. But I think listening is very important in that regard. And seriously, when it does come to leading like worship, I find if I have, I don't know who uses in-ear monitors, but when I do, I find, you know, I like to hear, if I can, over the monitors, whether they're 4 monitors or in-ears, I like to hear them singing back if they know the songs. And for me, that really kind of brings a level of inspiration that doesn't just come from who's on the stage. And so I like to either pop an ear out or turn the monitor down or something so I can hear them worshiping back. And that really kind of just inspires the team, inspires me too. So it's important.
Could I recommend Luke you get a house mic? It's what we've used in some of our church services. It's a mic that's above the congregation, and it's just for in the mix. You can pull it in. So that's there for that purpose. Exactly what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was playing at a women's retreat, and I had my set list, and I was on a song, and I was about to go to another song, and I looked over, and this woman was weeping, and obviously God was doing something, and so I thought, no, we have to stay here. We have to stay here, and we did, and it was very powerful. So sometimes you just have to, yes, be prepared with the set list, but you have to go with the flow. Because again, it's not about us.
So Cheryl, going on to that, I know that you have an album. I want to say it's Precious Peace or something like that. Is that the right name? Okay, I was gonna say either Precious Peace or Peaceful Moments, but you know, and I know that's all instrumental. I know that's all piano. At least I think it's all piano. Am I correct on that?
Yeah.
The few songs I heard, I know were all piano.
Yeah, all piano.
And I know there was, like, especially with COVID, you were doing some, you know, late night, you know, here's some relaxing music for everyone to kind of rest and from a crazy day of being locked up in your homes, you know, kind of idea. What inspired that music for you?
That's a good question. I like to call that music spiritually inspired spontaneous performances.
Yeah, say it again. Spiritually
inspired spontaneous performances. I could even throw the piano in there. Spiritually inspired spontaneous piano performances, but that's a mouthful. But yeah, that's basically that. That whole album was basically what I would do is I would pray, press record, and play. And what you hear is take one. Because if I tried to, and if I got in my head, I'd mess up. Okay, step away, Cheryl, you're done for the day. So that was what I like to call heavenly music. Yeah.
That is cool.
It is cool.
Okay, so I do have a question from a couple questions from the audience. For both of you, how much time do you spend practicing your instrument today?
Today?
Oh, any day.
In general. Yeah, in general.
You can answer that, Luke.
Oh, sure. At least for me now, with COVID on, and we are doing kind of remote church. We've been recording for our church. I'm practicing with my daughter and my son, and so I'm more working with them, of course. As far as what I do on my guitar, at this point in when I'm writing, I'm finding out new parts of my guitar. that I'm trying to, trying to find out different sounds, and that's kind of an exploratory thing I'm doing with my guitar. But so there's a bit of learning there. But as far as talk big, right? I say we should always practice. There's always a next level, but for me, it's more about surviving, getting my stuff done, getting my act together. So I don't spend much time practicing at this point. But if I had something, that was coming up, then I would definitely put some time into that. But for me, it's more about rolling just from thing to thing.
So, so would you say you practice what, a couple hours a day or more, or any recommendation?
I play half an hour, to be honest, as far as prepping. So that's every day. So that's like maybe five of those for recording for church.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. How about you, Cheryl? Roughly how much time do you spend practicing a day? On average.
On average. Lately it's been a little bit sparse because I got a lot of other things going on. But when there's like a gig coming up or performance coming up, yeah, there's a lot of time going in, sometimes an hour or two a day. But there are times where there's nothing happening, and I'll admit that I kind of let that slide. So if students are listening, don't listen to, you keep practicing.
It's called plug your ears, plug your ears.
Yeah, that is so funny. Hey, well, it sounds like you play because you have to, and that's, I mean, like, well, not because you have to, because it's out of the things you want to do. You're playing as you're doing them, so that time is spent in going through the material and getting yourself prepared, or whatever that calls for.
I think there's a difference between practicing and playing.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, like if I'm practicing. Okay, I might be drilling my scales, playing one particular song over and over and over. Mm-hmm. Playing, I do that every day, and I don't even consider it practicing. I can just, I don't know, it's just flowing. It's like, yeah.
So maybe we can move into another question about your instrument care. How much time, or what do you do, like, with your instrument care right now? How often do you take care of your instruments, or what that means?
Well, for a piano, for an acoustic piano, it should be tuned at least once a year, sometimes twice a year. If it's a digital piano, just regular dusting of it. Like, you don't really have to tune it at all. So.
Yeah, and as far as my acoustic guitar, I actually bought it from Africa. It was from Nigeria, and it was a part of a kind of a mission where they were, creating a trade school there for guitars, and so it's cool. So I bought a guitar from there, and I said to him, "Hey, if I buy a guitar from there, is it gonna like crack in half from our dry winters here in Ontario?" And he said, "Well, you gotta be careful. So for acoustic guitars and that, like, you want it in the case in the winter time with a humidifier from your local music store. And then in the summertime, you can either keep the case open or you can leave the humidifier in there. And there's a couple different ones I use. So you really gotta be careful with the acoustic guitar that you, especially when the furnace comes on, bad things happen, right? Your hardwood separates and your guitar falls apart.
So was that guitar actually made in Africa?
It was, yeah. It was local wood and local.
Wow.
So it was great. It's a solid top guitar, which means it's not glued together, laminated wood.
Right.
Solid top, which is a higher quality. And so in order to convince my wife that I could actually buy one, I had to make it a mission. And so it was like perfect. Like, yes.
I got my bases covered now. I can get the guitar. That's another conversation we had a couple of shows ago, talking about gear acquisition syndrome.
So how often would we have to replace our instrument? Do you recommend?
Well, for me, that very first gig at that Christian school, I had my hacked up electric guitar that was basically falling apart. And so if people are actually going to start to like give you honorariums or to reimburse you or to pay you actual money to do something, I think that's where you don't want to stand up there and have the whole thing go buzz You want to make sure that you have a quality instrument that's not gonna fail you and it's gonna support you. And so yeah, and as I kept playing more and more, then I upgraded my acoustic guitar as well to the solid top. So I think it really, you don't have to spend a fortune when you're just starting. But I think as people depend on you more and as you develop as an artist, you don't want to go up there and be playing a piece of garbage, because you'll start sounding like garbage, right? And so when you find yourself at that point, it's important that your instrument kind of matches where you're at.
Good point.
Yeah,
Cheryl, is it the same with the keyboard? I guess in your case.
Well, yeah. Well, it depends what you like. Some students are starting out on just a portable keyboard. Some of them don't have touch sensitive keys. I would always recommend starting with touch sensitive keys, so that the harder you hit the, speaking of dynamics, the harder you hit the note, the louder it will be. Not all keyboards have that. So if you've started on a piano that doesn't have that, time to upgrade that. If you start on a keyboard that just has 61 notes and you've been playing for a few years and maybe you're running out of keys, time to get something bigger. And if you're going to go big, my thing is go big or go home. Right? Just go bite the bullet, invest, and get yourself a nice instrument, because pianos are not something they're not like cars where you have to get one every 5 years. You invest in a piano, that's yours for life.
Yeah, I know. One sitting right in my living room right now.
Yeah. So if you have an acoustic piano, it's very important to keep it maintained.
Yeah.
Some people think, well, I'm not playing it, so I don't have to tune it. But it's made out of wood. It's still expanding and contracting. And if you don't tune it for a long time, then it's hard to bring it back up to that concert pitch. So it's important to care for those babies.
Mm-hmm. If you can't afford a Nord keyboard, then you buy the Nord paint, and you can paint your keyboard red, right?
Absolutely. And it'll sound way better.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No. I want to just maybe finish up with our time together by asking one question that we like to throw in at the end. We would like you to just address maybe just 3 points. Maybe you've talked about it already. You'd like to reiterate 3 things you want to say to somebody who is maybe playing in a band or a worship band, or have not yet had the experience of that, or maybe there's someone who's been doing it for a long time, but you have some little things, 2-3 little things that you would say, hey, this is what I would like to impart upon you. 3 little points.
3-point sermon, Cheryl. Go.
On your mark. Get set.
Okay. One would be prepare on your end. Do everything that you can do on your end to show up to that band practice knowing your stuff. Number 2 would be listen to the other members. And number 3, I'm going to say let go and have fun. Because once you've done all that preparation, get out of your head and just have fun and worship.
Awesome.
Cheryl took my 3, so
yeah, right.
I think I'm gonna boil my 3 down to 1. And at the beginning, our host Cheryl gave all these accolades of who we are and what we've done, and I think to myself, I wouldn't be anywhere if I hadn't stuck with it. Like, I would say I am not super talented. I would say I'm just a hard worker. And so like, I just stuck with it. I didn't give up. I had some bad reviews on some music. Well, you write another one, you keep going. And so I think just being hardworking, staying with it, and that will take you a lot of places, I think. And so, and for those of you who are talented, God bless you. And for those of us who aren't and we need to develop it, then that's what we've talked about tonight, right? It's just developing yourself, your musicianship. And if your heart's in it, if you feel like God's calling you to use it in either in supporting worship or in leading worship or in writing songs, like, don't give up because you haven't arrived where you thought you'd be. I think just work hard, and God will bless that.
Hallelujah to that. Preach it, brother.
I love it.
That was good.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, I think this has been a great conversation. There's probably a whole lot more we can probably get out of this, but I want to be sensitive to our time. And I want to thank you, Luke, and you, Cheryl, for being here, for sharing your insight on musicianship. Kudos to both of you for your accomplishments and for being examples of what we could be, as fellow musicians that are watching and wanting to get to a new level in our musicianship. And hearing what you have to say, hearing from your experiences, hearing from where you started to where you are now, I think is just really awesome. And audience, I know that you've been watching this, and I'm hoping that, yes, you too were encouraged by what you were seeing and hearing. And again, we want to encourage you that if you got something out of this, hit the thumbs up button, hit subscribe so you can learn more or get notified when we put another conversation like this on air. We want you to get notified. If you want to know more about Gospel Music Industry Hub, definitely go to our website, gospelmusicindustryhub.com, where we have lots of information there for you. And I want to announce that you may have, if you've been watching us, you know that last year we did a compilation project, a compilation album where we invited artists to write original Christmas music. Well, that went well. So we are doing it again. So we are now launching GMIHub Family Christmas Volume 2 with your help. So if you want to get started now for this coming Christmas season, think of some Christmas songs or write some original Christmas music. And here's the image right here. There's the album cover right now. We already have it. So if you want to be inspired or are inspired and write some Christmas music and send it on to us, check our website for details on when to send it. I think the due date is June the 13th. So you have 6 months to put it all together. And we look forward to hearing what you can come up with. And we are not limited in style. People sometimes think we are limited in style of music. We are not. It could be praise and worship. It could be rock. It could be funk. It could be rhythm and blues. It could be, did I miss a style? Classical. It can be any style of music, but Christmassy. So we look forward to getting music from you on that. Did I miss anything? You can follow us on social media. We are here on YouTube. We are also on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. Dale, did I miss anything?
No, you said Instagram. No, that's great. I just want everybody to know that, now that the YouTube channel is here, you can share that by taking the link and put it on your social media so that everybody can get involved in what we're doing. And that would be great for us to get you to subscribe. That would just show us the love. That's all I'm asking. Thanks.
Awesome.
Show
well,
the love.
remember, Gospel Music Industry Hub, or GMIHub, encourages unity, community, mentorship, and talent growth. And we're here for you. If there's any topics or subjects that you want us to talk about, drop us a line. We'll be happy to gather some people together to talk about it. We'll be back, though. We're here every week, so we're going to be back next week with a new topic. Actually, I think that's our studio talk week. And we will be back next week.
Thank you.
Signing off.
Bye for now.